Okay, so we've heard the reports out of Texas and Florida. Now allegations that migrants, in this case children, were being mistreated at a detention center in Arizona. Well, it shows the issue appears to be more widespread than previously known. NBC News has obtained dozens of documents with dozens of accounts of border agents allegedly mistreating, punishing, even abusing kids at an overcrowded facility in Yuma, Arizona. One 15-year-old girl alleges she was sexually assaulted. Jacob Soboroff broke this story for NBC alongside Julia Ainsley, and the two of them have been at the front of this immigration story from the start. So Jacob, tell us what you found.
Well, it's pretty horrific, frankly, Jeff. You know, as you said, we've heard all these reports about what's going on in Texas, and it's the first time we're hearing about reports from inside of an Arizona Border Patrol station. Many of the same issues that we heard about in Texas: unsanitary conditions, extreme overcrowding, children forced to sleep outside, lack of toothbrushes, bad food, bad water. But what goes to the next level in these what are called significant incident reports that we have obtained, and they are completed by case managers at HHS, Health and Human Services, when these young kids get out of Border Patrol custody. The stuff is really shocking. I want to talk quickly about some of the examples that stuck out to us in the dozens that we found. You mentioned one, the 15-year-old girl from Honduras who alleges she was sexually assaulted by a Border Patrol agent. In very specific detail, this young woman recounted to her case manager that a bearded officer groped her breasts and her genitals. It was something that other people in this Border Patrol facility witnessed. They were laughing in English and talking about it after it occurred. Other allegations of after complaints about food and water quality. Border Patrol agents took out sleeping mats from the cells of young children that were in this Yuma station, and many other incidents, including one of a young boy who wore soiled underpants for 10 days because he was too afraid to ask agents for a change of clothes because of the posture the agents took towards the young kids. And like I said, this is 30 of potentially thousands of significant incident reports. We haven't seen, nearly the full volume of these things. Julia said last night it's the tip of the iceberg. So many more questions and answers about what's going on here.
And here's the deal, because Border Patrol has said in the past they need more money, they need more resources. But it strikes me that money and resources mean nothing if a culture exists where agents, some of them, treat kids this way with impunity. So what is the Border Patrol saying about these allegations now? Well,
good point, Jeff. And again, Julia said last night, she was talking to Lawrence O'Donnell, overcrowding does not beget sexual assault or allegations of sexual assault. Overcrowding does not beget retaliatory efforts by Border Patrol agents on young kids. So we presented our findings to Customs and Border Protection. I want to quickly read you from the statement that they gave to us. They said, U.S. Customs and Border Protection treats those in our custody with dignity and respect and provides multiple avenues to report any allegations of misconduct. The allegations don't align with common practice at our facilities and will be fully investigated. It's important to note that the allegation of sexual assault is already under investigation by the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General. And what I'd like to say about that, just briefly, Jeff, is that this allegation came up over a month ago. Why haven't we heard anything about it until now? DHS, CBP did not acknowledge whether or not that bearded agent, as is described in the report, is still on the job, still supervising other young migrant children as this investigation plays out. And we don't even know when the investigation was opened. How long did it take to open an investigation like this? And why specifically did they say they only opened an investigation into that case and not the other allegations, the dozens of allegations that we put in front of CBP over the course of the last day or so? Again, they're just not getting to the bottom of what's truly going on here, a systemic cultural issue, as you so rightly point out.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.